We are now more connected than any humans in history. We can talk to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And yet, loneliness is rising. In the middle of a crowded street, in the middle of a group chat, even in the middle of a family, people often feel profoundly alone. This isn't a personal failure. It's not just you. It's something much bigger. This is the story of how modern life isolated us, and how we might find our way back to one another. To understand why loneliness feels so painful, we have to take a look at the kind of world we were shaped for. Our nervous systems evolved for hundreds of thousands of years in tight-knit communities, villages, tribes, interwoven lives where your survival depended on your relationships, where trust wasn't a virtue, it was a necessity. You didn't just know your neighbors, you needed them, and you needed to know each other very well. If you help your neighbor mend their fence this year, you need to know they will come through for you next time you need them. Maybe you're injured in a hunt and you can't obtain food. Your ability to eat, build, stay safe, and raise children, all of it rested on shared responsibility, mutual care, and an unspoken truth. The village survives together, or not at all. These societies weren't perfect. Collective norms came at a cost, but they also offered something we've largely lost: a deep, embodied sense of belonging. Stories passed around fires and repeated in temples. Even when you felt uncertain inside yourself, the world around you echoed back a kind of certainty. A place, a role, a rhythm. You were someone to somebody, and that mattered. Now we live in a different kind of world, one that is hyper-convenient and emotionally impoverished. You can access every physical necessity: water, shelter, food, even simulated intimacy, without needing to interact with a single human being face to face. We are compartmentalized and specialized. To survive, you need only a tiny contribution from millions of different people with thousands of separate jobs. Modern society has severed the link between physical reliance and emotional connection. We need each other to survive, but we don't need to know each other to survive, at least in the short term. And this, perhaps more than anything, is disorienting the human soul. Even the face-to-face interactions we do have, in stores, at work, in elevators, are often transactional, brief, and forgettable. We rush past each other as if time is always running out. Add to that a cultural narrative that glorifies self-sufficiency, productivity, and wealth. We are trained to optimize, to outperform, to always be building our brand. But connection doesn't scale up. It doesn't perform on command. It requires pacing, patience, and vulnerability, qualities our current culture rarely rewards. And so connection begins to feel like a luxury, like something indulgent, when in truth, it's a biological and psychological imperative. It's a critical part of a functioning society. It's still a necessity, but only when we properly place value on mental health and social cohesion. We reach for screens to fill the space where community once lived. And in some ways, they do offer connection, but it's a facsimile, high on stimulation, low on nourishment. We cultivate parasocial relationships with influencers and celebrities, even AI. Thoughts and feelings about people we'll never meet, offloading our emotional energy onto figures who cannot reciprocate. The emotions are real to us, but there is no spark, no real connection. Over time, our hunger only deepens. And then, how do we fill that void? Platforms built for attention reward performance, not authenticity. Social media culture seeps into every area of our lives and our community. When we curate our performance, we're not sharing ourselves. Narcissistic traits, selfishness, admiration seeking, exploitation, are incentivized, no longer pathologized. But here's the paradox. When everyone is broadcasting, no one is truly listening. We're surrounded by content on one side, an audience on the other, and yet we feel utterly alone. And when we feel alone, we double down on the performance. It becomes our coping mechanism. Narcissism becomes the strategy, not because we're arrogant, but because we're starving for true recognition. Many of us are even starving for touch, physical contact, the brief hand on a shoulder, the warmth of a hug, is a powerful regulator of our nervous system. Without it, we become dysregulated, anxious, ungrounded. Yet many adults go days, even weeks, without any meaningful physical contact. There are less and less accepted reasons to connect physically. Outside of intimate relationships, most adults have almost none. Fears about a virus have made us wary of even touching hands. We are not only emotionally isolated, we are physically untouched. And into this emotional vacuum pours the torrent of media noise. News cycles optimized for outrage, algorithms tailored to confuse and provoke. We are fed a diet of division, disaster, and distrust. We can't even trust the sources. We know these are often mistaken or misleading, and it changes how we see the world around us, not as a place of possibility, but of threat. Strangers become suspicious. Differences become dangerous. We shrink emotionally and socially into ourselves. Sometimes we seek shelter from influences like news and social media. We fear that our retreat will isolate us from the world. But not all forms of being alone are the same. There is a sacred solitude that nourishes the soul, time spent in quiet, in reflection, disconnected, in communion with nature or art or one's own thoughts. Solitude is a kind of peace. a stillness you enter willingly, not to escape people, but to escape the noise that drowns you out. The danger isn't being alone, it's being without meaning. We must reclaim solitude as a source of strength, not a symptom of loss. And most importantly, we must find time and space to reach out and create connection. We can't return to the village, but we can begin to rebuild rituals that make sense to us and make sense of our world. That might mean something as simple as joining a musical group, starting a weekly potluck at work, volunteering, or simply talking to your barista in the morning instead of just nodding and keeping your headphones on. Even better, we can create new spaces in person where shared presence matters, where showing up awkwardly and consistently becomes its own kind of ceremony. This doesn't require perfection, or charisma, or even confidence. What it requires is attention, the awareness of how we feel, the willingness to ask someone how they're doing, and really watch and listen when they respond, to share your own uncertainty, to risk being vulnerable in a culture that tells us to armor up. Connection isn't a destination, it's a lifelong practice. Loneliness is not a flaw in your character. It's a response to an environment that is out of sync with your own human needs. And while we can't fix it all, we can make connection a priority. We can step toward one another, however imperfectly. We can reclaim the slow, the small, the sincere, because the truth is, we were never meant to do this alone. If you liked my video, please hit like and subscribe for more content like this.